representing Team Popping the Boys, the headline god, Jeremy Lambert, and his co-host, speaking out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing more than one royal family, the king of indie viewing, Stephen Jensen. And this is the Spotlight on Fightful.
Welcome everyone to the Spotlight here on Fightful. I'm Jeremy Lambert, that's Stephen Jensen, and shout out as always our big dick MLJ for the intro. It is Thursday, March 19th. We got plenty to talk about in the world of professional wrestling, as we always do. Jensen, before we get into all that, how you doing?
Doing good. You know, we got to start off by unfortunately recognizing something terrible that happened just a few days ago in the world of sports. Team USA Baseball losing the finals of the World Baseball Classic. That was absolutely brutal. My boy Bryce Harper, oh man, hits that home run in the 8th inning, ties it up 2-2, rounding the bases, salutes third base coach, pointing at the team, pointing at the American flag, going to home plate. I was so hyped. And then we lost in the 9th inning. And that was that, unfortunately. I'm looking forward to the MLB season starting, though. So, that happened. But it was unfortunate. Coming off the hockey win and everything, the vibes were good. I saw we even did well in, the Paralympics. Apparently, across the board, we were doing really well. America was representing sports. And then, but credit to, Venezuela. A lot of those teams were really, really stacked. I mean, there's so much talent in the MLB all across the world. So I think baseball in general, too. Obviously, I got into it big during the season last year, kind of right at the right time. And it's kind of bigger right now than ever right now. So at least since the 90s, since the steroid era when I was a fan back then. So, yeah. Did you watch any of that? Did you pay attention to any of the baseball stuff that was going on?
Yeah, I watched the World Baseball Classic. I watched basically all the tournament games. I didn't watch the I didn't watch the round robin stuff. That it's good games, but it doesn't quite interest me too much. But once you get into the tournament, once it becomes best on best kind of stuff, I'll always watch that regardless of sport most of the time, as long as I am interested in the sport and I'm interested enough in baseball. But yeah, I watched it. I watched the final game between USA and Venezuela, and that was a great game. I just don't have the American pride. I'm sorry.
I know. That's why I've got to kick it up. I've got to crank it to 11 to make up for your lack of patriotism here on this show. I very much, it's also a big part of it is I've gotten so into baseball over this past year, and I've been really wanting it to come back, and the tournament was so good. So even though I wanted Team USA to win, I wasn't I'm not actually super bummed out that Venezuela won. You know what I mean? There's a lot of great players on the Venezuelan team as well that I'm going to watch all year during the MLB season. And now it's also kind of an interesting storyline 3 years from now. USA lost to Japan in the finals 3 years ago, then lost in the finals this year to Venezuela. And then it's going to be can they redeem themselves finally next year and all that stuff. And, all the storylines with Mark DeRosa, the head coach, not knowing if, that they needed to win one of the games to actually get into the actual tournament and all that stuff. And they were just, needing Italy to win so that we could back our way in to everything. And anyway, it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward. The season starts next week. So I'm, it's going to be a fun season. And then the only other thing kind of going on, got to represent my boy Kyler over here. Minnesota Vikings starting quarterback, already found merchandise as fast as possible. Shout out to Patrick Seatman over there at Vikings Now with Chat Sports, one of my favorite YouTubers. They were quick to get out some Kyler Murray Minnesota Vikings merch. So, now that he's the guy, got to represent. Still love my guy, JJ McCarthy. They signed Carson Wentz today. That makes things very interesting as well.
Yeah.
Skol Vikings.
I don't know if JJ McCarthy is going to be your guy for too much longer. Because
it's going to be interesting.
Why are you keeping Wentz, Murray, and McCarthy? Nobody carries 3 quarterbacks. We know that's not a thing.
Well, so you can look at it one of two ways. The way that I see it, at least initially, I know that it's two very different schools of thought, and I've seen both already today through Vikings social media, like from like fans and people I follow and stuff like that. I've seen some YouTube videos throughout the day while I was working as well. When I saw this happen, my initial thought was, this is great because Carson Wentz was on our team last year. It's like, obviously it's a short-term deal. He's not making a lot of money, and he actually won 2 games for us last year. Like, he is capable of winning games in our system before his arm fell off. And that was a whole weird thing with him and McCarthy also being hurt. And anyway, the point is, last year we actually needed to resort to a third string quarterback because McCarthy got hurt, Wentz got hurt. So we had to resort to Max Brosmer, who was terrible and didn't win any games. And so I look at it as, okay, the Vikings are being prepared this year. We're going to have Kyler Murray as the starter, JJ McCarthy as the backup, and then Carson Wentz as like the emergency fallback plan. But then there's the other school of thought that a lot of people, also really believe is a possibility, is that we're trying to, trade JJ McCarthy before the season starts, probably after the draft or during the draft or whatever. And that's possible, but the team kind of devalued McCarthy with how they handled this also. Like, if it's one thing to, you know what I mean? Like, they should have been like talking him up this entire offseason to the media, not being like, yeah, we don't know if like he's the guy or not. I mean, like, it was, you're kind of like screwing up our trade value if we are going to trade him. So the whole thing is just it's kind of weird. I'd like to have all 3 of them because I do not want to get back into a Max Brosmer situation this year. If the Vikings would have won one more game last year, we would have been in the playoffs. Like, and we had this guy, we weren't prepared at all. We put all our eggs in JJ McCarthy basket without having any backup plan. And it totally bit us in the ass. So hopefully now they're going to ride with 3 quarterbacks. And
no team carries 3 quarterbacks. We know this, Jensen. No team carries 3 quarterbacks.
Well, we currently do. So We'll see what winds up happening. The other thing that it makes it a little more suspicious if they're going to get rid of, like, for the idea of getting rid of McCarthy, is that if Carson Wentz, like, how do I explain this? We're so early on right now still in the process where there are teams that are really desperate still that still might need a starting quarterback, or at the very least need a reliable backup quarterback. And you would think that Carson Wentz would at least wait out the next, few weeks, few months, the draft and that stuff, and see who needed a backup quarterback, like versus coming in being told you're going to be the 3rd string quarterback in Minnesota. So that's kind of the other argument too, is like, is he being told, hey, you're coming in as the backup, we're going to get rid of JJ, because otherwise, why would he sign with the Vikings right now and like not wait out his other options the next few months?
Yeah, I don't think it looks great.
Kyler, it's my boy, Kyler Murray. Wanted him the whole time.
Yes, yeah, you're on record.
5'10", baby. Let's get it.
All right. Anything else before we jump into some?
No, we got a lot of wrestling to talk about.
All right. We'll start with AEW.
Over 1 million fans and a great number in the demo tuned in. It was a great show, and I think it's been a run of great shows.
It's been a run of great pay-per-views for AEW, and their latest one, AEW Revolution, headlined by Hangman Page, MJF, Texas Deathmatch. MJF did win. Hangman Page can no longer challenge for the AEW World title until they figure out a way to get back off the stipulation, but for right now, can no longer challenge for the title. What did you think of the match and then the stipulation now moving forward?
So, the match is going to be very polarizing, obviously, because of the stuff that they did, but you also kind of need to know what you're getting into. They've heavily advertised this is going to be an AEW Texas Death Match. We've seen syringes through cheeks before. We saw that again, obviously. we saw pretty much everything you could think of. The only thing they really haven't done is gusset plates, which I'm sure will come eventually. But I also, before I get into the actual match and the storyline, it's also worth mentioning, I've legitimately talked to people who are not AEW fans that did watch this pay-per-view and did enjoy the majority of the pay-per-view, that are just only watch WWE, have no interest in AEW. I've got some people interested, and they'll never watch it again because of the Texas Death Match. Like, it turned them off so bad that they were like, I don't care what the rest of the show was. Like, the syringe was like enough, or it was like, I'm never going to support this. So that's one thing where it's like, that's kind of a bummer, because I think they're preventing themselves a little bit from creating some new fans potentially with some of that stuff. And Bryan Danielson said it on commentary himself. He was like, maybe we wait a little while before we do the next one of these. And I'm with him on that. Like, I think that that's smart, but it's as far as the story went and the two wrestlers and my perspective on it, especially as somebody who covered death matches for years, I thought it was pretty incredible, honestly. Like, it was, what else could you have asked for? To be honest, when MJF took the skewers to the head and then the buckshot lariat, if that would have been the finish right there, I would have been good with it. Like, I thought that was like enough, right? And then they went another like 15 minutes. I was like, this is insane. And obviously MJF winning the way that he did, hanging Hangman over the ropes the same way Hangman did that to win the title from Moxley. Everything coming full circle. And now the story, obviously, we've talked about it, weeks heading into the actual show. Is Hangman gonna eventually have to go back on this? Because unless Hangman is planning on ever jumping to the WWE over the next handful of years, I don't know. I can't see a future where 10 years from now, Hangman Page isn't allowed to challenge for the AEW World Championship if he's still in the company. You know what I mean? So something's got to give there. Tony Khan did kind of create a bit of a loophole almost, where he made it publicly known it was like a verbal agreement. It was never like signed. So Hangman could essentially just go back on his word. There's nothing like legally binding that prevents him from challenging for the title. And I think that that'll be used in the future at some point. But I also think Hangman will probably disappear for a while too. And MJF still has a lot of opponents ready for title matches. You got Omega and Swerve, going for that right now. Darby's made it known that he wants the title. There's a bunch of people right now. Ospreay's back. It'll be him and Mox. We'll talk about that in a second too. But he'll be in the title mix soon too. Eventually, assumingly, it'll be. That's not a real word. Assumingly, we're all assuming that Will Ospreay is going to probably be challenging for the world title at All In. So they're going to be building to that at some point, right? So it's like you got a lot of options right now with MJF. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. How about you?
I love the match. I mean, death match death is in the title. So I don't know what people want. It is interesting to hear you say that like people were completely turned off by it. And I guess if you're a new fan and like you only kind of know WWE, I get it. Like this stuff definitely isn't for everyone, and I certainly can only watch it, but so much. I can't watch like Tournament of Survival because that's just too much death match in one spot. But I can watch one match on a full card. Like if there's one death match, I'm fine with it. And AEW is more toned down than certainly what they do in like GCW and other places that are nothing but GCW is not nothing but death matches, but there are certain places that are like nothing but death matches. Like they're more toned down from that for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's interesting that people were just completely turned off by it. I wasn't. To me, it was like, all right, it's an AEW death match. The syringe through the cheek thing like doesn't bother me because I think it's kind of a stupid spot. Like you don't hurt. I mean, you hurt them like it's a needle through your cheek, but you'd hurt them more if like you actually just injected them with something.
Yeah.
So
I think it's also the visual, at least for me, this might just be me, but to me, the visual of him walking around with it in his cheek afterwards is worse than seeing it go through, because I'm afraid he's gonna like take a bump or hit it, or you know what I mean. Like I don't want to see it get worse while it's in his, because I saw like the Warhorse thing with the turnbuckle, you know what I mean. Like so it's I may have maybe a little
like the paper cuts to me are worse. I mean, you've seen Jackass, I assume. When they do like the paper cuts between like the fingers and stuff, that's stuff that I can't watch. I'm like, ooh, that's stuff that I can't
don't like
do.
that either.
Yeah. So the syringe thing to me is like, all right, sure, whatever. As far as the stipulation goes, I assume Hangman's gonna take time off. Fightful Select reported that he's gonna take time off, which makes a lot of sense. I think they will honor the stipulation for at least a year. I don't think they're going to go back on it within the first year. And I think they'll even go longer than that. But I definitely think you'll get a full year of him not being able to do anything. Like you said, 10 years down the line, like is Hangman Page really never going to challenge for this title? Tony mentioned it's a handshake deal. Obviously, the kind of story in a way is MJF knows that Hangman is not a man of his word, and so he expects him to go back on his word, and then he can say, I told you this is who he's always been. And that's kind of the story. And again, that might be 3 years down the line, who knows, but that's why it's not in writing or whatever. So I still think MJF should have gotten it in writing. MJF seems smarter than that, to be like, yeah, dude, no, we got to put this in a legally binding contract, whatever that means in professional wrestling, that you can't challenge for the title again. There is I think you brought it up last week about Swerve, like possibly being the champion and saying, like, to really solidify my status as the champion, like I got to beat Hangman, so I will put this on the line. Again, this might be years down the line. There is the thing, Swerve wants to be the EVP now, so I don't know, maybe that plays into something with Hangman. I don't think Swerve's gonna win next week, but maybe they go with him and they do a heel authority figure type gimmick like we just saw last year, but on a bigger level, because I think Swerve is just a much more dastardly heel than the Young Bucks. The Bucks are very like jokey, cool heels in a way, and Swerve doesn't care about any of that. He wants to like really ruin people. So it'd be a different version of the heel EVP, but it's still at the end of the day a heel EVP.
Yeah, and what I said, you got pretty much accurate. The only thing that was a little bit different was I was saying that for Hangman to go back on his word would be more of like not from Swerve wanting to do it because he wanted to prove himself, like because he had to solidify himself. It was more of like he gets so like the EVP thing actually feeds into this idea even more if it were to happen, because the idea would be the guy, he just gets so powerful, and like part of it in his ego is that he knows Hangman can't go after him. Right. So it's like, so he never wants to wrestle Hangman, and he's just, he doesn't even bother with him because it's like, what's he going to do? Like, he can't ever wrestle me. And Swerve takes down everyone else. And eventually, similar in a way to the Death Riders with Hangman, it's kind of like someone's eventually got to take down Swerve. And then, for whatever reason, Hangman's got to go back on his word. Who knows? There's a lot of ways I can go with it. And also, by the way, MJF's promo on Dynamite was great. Like right after the match.
That was about the best thing on Dynamite. No, that makes sense. The way you laid it out. I think you could lay it out either way, because Hangman. It depends if you want to protect Hangman's integrity. Because Swerve can kind of say it and then give Hangman the out, or like you said, Hangman can just kind of be the ultimate option, like the last option, because Swerve is just kind of run through everything else, and so Hangman has to stand up for AEW to get the title. So either way kind of works there.
Kogan here in the chat, good to see you. He agrees. He was basically saying the same thing as you right there about the champion needing to feel like And I get that too. I mean, that's also a good story that makes sense as well. Like Hangman means so much to AEW, and he's been so tied to the AEW championship, literally saying he wanted to be the first ever AEW champion, even though he wasn't. But he, that story, he's been so tied to it that I could see them doing some sort of story where the current champion feels like they're not really the champion until they take down Hangman as well. Also mentioned something about True Slayer earlier, T Slay. I don't know if anyone in the chat is familiar. True Slayer is an OG YouTuber that I watched a lot back in the day. I talked to him years back. Actually, did some random shows with him actually as well on another channel. But good to see y'all in the chat. Keep the comments coming in. Please let us know how you feel about the matches and these stories we're talking about. A lot happened on Revolution.
Yeah. Anything else with Hangman and MJF before we kind of run through the rest of the show?
No, I think that's a good stopping point. Pretty much, like I just kind of touched on. There's a lot of challengers ready for MJF also, and it's going to be interesting to see with Swerve. We can kind of almost transition into that with Swerve beating Brody King. You also have Swerve versus Omega coming up. And there's a lot, like you can really go either way with that. It would make sense for Swerve to beat Omega. It would also make sense for Omega to beat Swerve. So there's a lot, and then Darby, like I said, has said he wants a title shot, and I mean, I mean, I really think AEW is in like one of the best. This was honestly one of my favorite pay-per-views, at least in a while. Like I really like the show. I know it was long, and people complain about that kind of stuff. I don't. I paid my $40. I've got HBO Max, so if I paid $40, I'm cool with them giving me a whole bunch of wrestling, and every match was great. So, I just wanted to mention that as well. But no, I'm good. I'm good on the main event there.
Elsewhere on the card, FTR, Young Bucks. FTR retained the tag team titles, and then afterwards, Cope and Christian returned.
Yeah, I thought the tag team match was fantastic. As many times as these guys have wrestled one another, it's always great. The Young Bucks are especially underrated, I feel like, because we've just seen them do the same stuff so many times. But here's a perfect example. The same people that had issues with the death match at the end that don't want to watch AEW anymore earlier on the show couldn't believe what they were seeing the Young Bucks doing, even just the ways they were getting in and out of the ring, kind of like they were saying like they were breakdancing in between the ropes and stuff, basically. And I was like, yeah, it's basically what they're doing. Like, we take them for granted because we've just been watching them for so long, but they have such great matches. And of course, FTR is, like, fundamentally speaking, especially, like, they're one of the most sound, and successful tag teams ever across multiple companies. I mean, you can't say enough good things about both of these teams. And then, of course, you have Cage and Cope, who came out, as you mentioned, made their returns, and they basically teased that we'll get Cage and Cope again versus FTR, but also they're teasing the Young Bucks being involved in that. Maybe we'll also at some point get like a triple threat or like a triple threat ladder match or something with those teams or something. I don't know. But this really feels like this is going to be the last big tag team run for Cage and Cope, and it's going to be them mainly being focused on the two, in my opinion, two of the best tag teams ever, but definitely, the two best tag teams in AEW, I would imagine. I can't think of any two tag teams off the top of my head that I could say were two better tag teams throughout the history of AEW up to this point than FTR and the Young Bucks. So,
yeah, I thought this was the best match that they've had together, FTR and the Bucks. And all their matches are really good. Just thought this one was better than all of the previous three that they've had. I think it's three. Pretty sure it's three. And Cope and Christian returning, sure. I like Christian. Cope is whatever.
He's still in incredible shape for his age. You got to give him credit. I mean, you got to give credit where it's due.
No, I will always say I think Cope as a person, Adam Copeland, I think we would get along great. I think we'd probably have a lot in common. I feel like I could probably have a great chat with Adam Copeland, the person. As a wrestler, he doesn't do anything for me. he's there. So I don't. I play up the hate bitch? Sure, but yeah, I truthfully, like, as a wrestler, he's just there for me. He just doesn't do anything for me as a wrestler. Person, I think the person's fantastic. I don't have anything bad to say about the person. I want to make that very clear, because a lot of issues of who's working, who's being a heel online, and who's being a real person online, and all that stuff this week. So,
well, okay, fair enough. Yeah, well, I like Edge, but I get what you're saying. I don't think that especially since you like Christian, there's always been that argument, especially from Christian fans, that he was always the one who was really better and like should have broken out and had more success and all this stuff. I do think that that's kind of what they're trying to do right now with this tag team, though, to be honest. You notice that Christian comes out second every time they make their entrance, and even on the shirt, it's like crossed out so that Cage's name is on the top. Like, that's intentional. Obviously, they're trying to. They've talked about that too in interviews. Obviously, like, they've brought that up. Cage wanted to be, Cage and Cope, not Cope and Cage. It was Edge and Christian for so long. So yeah, this is all great stuff, and all we're gonna get from these tag teams are great tag team matches. So, and I'd imagine Cage and Cope are at some point going to win the AEW tag titles. Toronto's coming up, right?
Vancouver. I mean, they get the title shot in Vancouver at Dynasty.
Vancouver.
I think they're gonna win them there.
That's. I mean, I knew it was Canada soon. Yeah, that's. Yeah, I agree. They're gonna win the titles from FTR, I think.
Yeah, I suspect they will win the titles there. Now, we'll obviously see when the match happens in a few. Well, next month. Actually, I shouldn't say a few months. Next month. We shall see what happens there. But yeah, what's happened on the show? Will Ospreay made his return after Jon Moxley defeated Konosuke Takeshita to retain the Continental Championship. Ospreay is back, and then we saw him in action. He should have, lost to Blake Christian, but what can you do?
Your boy.
Yeah.
One day we'll will into existence that Jack Harlow crossover with you. Like, we'll get like him on a stream with you and Blake Christian and like make all the multiverses combined. But yeah, I mean, I think we were all kind of surprised. At least I know you and I had taken Takeshita to win the match, but the match was awesome. I mean, like, you can't say a bad thing about either of these two guys going out there. It was almost 25 minutes long. And it also made Takeshita look almost unbeatable. I mean, both guys, they hit everything, but and also I always forget the name, Raging Fire, Takeshita's finishing move. He I think Moxley is the first person to kick out of that, at least in AEW. So
that's what
there was that. Moxley hit a Death Rider off the second rope. I thought that was for sure going to be it, and Takeshita kicked out. And then Moxley put him in that rear naked choke, choked him out. And that was that. So yeah, match was awesome. Big fan of both of these guys still. I say still because Moxley's been around as long as he has, but Takeshita, we've both spoken very highly about as well. Could definitely see him being a future AEW World Champion. And speaking of that, I do think that Will Ospreay will eventually become the AEW World Champion also. He did return, and it was kind of it. Well, I shouldn't say a lot has happened since Ospreay left, but it's not surprising that he's targeting Moxley because the Death Riders, storyline wise, took him out of action. So that all makes sense, but I guess I didn't suspect that when he came back, Jon Moxley would be on this random Continental Championship run. You know what I mean? Like, it just kind of that's it. That aspect of it seems kind of random because I just feel like if Ospreay is going to be the world champion or challenging for the world title, then I don't know if you really want to kick off his return by him losing to Moxley. So I'd imagine he'll beat Moxley, and then it's like, so we're going to have a Continental title run for Ospreay that, where does it go from there? But I mean, honestly, as long as they keep giving me great matches on pay-per-view like this, and the storylines are interesting enough, and make enough logical sense, like I'm totally fine with it, to be completely honest. I'm just thinking ahead, almost fantasy booking on my own head, like how are they going to get from point A to point B when it comes to certain storylines that I think that they're going to have. But they have a lot of options. Like I said, I didn't expect Takeshita to even lose this match, but it also doesn't bother me at all that Moxley won, because the match was awesome. Moxley's probably the most credible wrestler in the entire company based on like his career resume. And yeah, and him and Ospreay is going to be an absolute banger when that happens. So, I mean, yeah, this is great.
The trios titles, Jet Speed, Mystico won them from the Don Callis family.
Yeah, this seemed kind of random doing the title change, but once again, another great match. And surprisingly, when you name everyone in this match, Kevin Knight, Speedball, Mystico, Okada, Fletcher, Davis, the person that stands out to me the most, honestly, when it came to a lot of this, was Mark Davis. Like, this guy can't continue to be. I can't say that he is being slept on, because he's being actually pretty heavily featured at the moment. But for so long, especially for all those years he was teaming with Kyle Fletcher, I always could envision, as I'm sure many fans could, one day Kyle Fletcher will be the breakout star of this team. He'll probably have a big singles run at some point. He was young. He had that look. He looked very much like a young Will Ospreay. You could see like a really big future in him. And I didn't know what was going to happen to Mark Davis when that split happened. And the only thing that I need to critique, and this might not even be his own, like this might not be his own fault. I don't know who designs his gear, but I just want to mention real quick that they're doing this whole storyline where Swerve is talking about being the most dangerous. He's having matches debating who's the most dangerous. They're like making it very, very clear in his theme song, most dangerous. And like the next segment, Mark Davis comes out and his trunks say dangerous on the back. You know what I mean? Like that's the only thing that are just kind of like, I'd probably change that.
He's dangerous. He's just not the most dangerous.
No, I know, but like that's just kind of like, honestly, it's more of a coincidence than anything. I don't think anyone's even probably noticed that but me. But anyway, I noticed it. As far as Mark Davis in the ring, though, he's great. You know, he has almost more of like a, you know, kind of generic look, but very similar build and wrestling style to Brody King. And some of those kind of bigger guys who can really move around and have super like unexpected levels of strength. Like the way that Mark Davis can pick people up, and even the way that he does that thing where he like runs into the ropes to bounce people back towards him so he can clothesline them and stuff. Like, I'm becoming more and more of a fan of Mark Davis kind of by the match. So I just want to throw that out there. And it also kind of stands out to me because I so fully expect all the other guys to just have insane, great matches every time we see them. Like anytime you see Speedball and Kyle Fletcher in the same match, like, you know, it's going to be awesome. Everybody involved in Mystico is doing the best work of his entire career right now, which is pretty insane also when you really think about it. So I figured they were going to go more with the Don Callis family winning more championships because they've been talking about that a lot. But instead they had Mystico win with Jet Speed, which also kind of parlayed into them officially announcing that Mystico was all elite. So that goes hand in hand also. So, but yeah, great match. And to be completely honest, and I hate saying it because I like all the wrestlers involved, but I've said it 1,000 times and it wouldn't matter who is in this match as I say this. The trios championships mean nothing to me at all. Like, just have trios matches. I don't need the title belts at all. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Fair. I'm hoping that the trios titles means a little bit more after this. We shall see if they get defended a little bit more. I know Mystico's kind of splitting time between Mexico and AEW, so yeah, we'll see if the trios titles mean something a little bit more after this.
Well, they've been defending them a lot, but they just hot potato them a lot. Like they've been having a lot of trios title matches, and then it's just like new champions, different mix of these people, and it's just kind of like, why are their belts on the line?
Well, yes, I agree. I understand what you're saying there. The problem is for the last little while, like the Ops didn't really defend them, and then they dropped them to Hangman, Knight, and Speedball, but Hangman was too busy with the world title stuff, so the trios titles never felt important. Even Kevin Knight was doing world title stuff, so the trios titles never felt important. And then they dropped them to Don Callis family, but Fletcher's the TNT champion, and Okada is the Continental the International champion, right? That's the title that he has?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So he has that champion. So, all right, now you've got two people who have other belts that are more prioritized than the trio titles, but now you have them on a trio that doesn't really have any other priorities until I guess Kevin Knight wants to be a singles guy or they want to do tag team stuff. But theoretically, they don't have other priorities. They could just be a trio and do stuff in the trios division. Theoretically, it might not play out that way, but that's the logic here.
I understand what you're saying for sure, and I hope that that's what happens because I like all three guys. And the little bit of hope that I have, also a little extra hope, is at least they went the extra mile of having Speedball and Knight get Mystico style masks, so they all kind of like match, like they're an actual team, you know. So, you know, that's maybe worth a little something as well.
Yeah. Another trios match. The Dogs lost. They're a bunch of losers. They should be kicked out of AEW for being losers.
So part of me is obviously surprised because at least Dave Finlay is new to the company. The group as a trio is new as this trio, and technically brand new, like, you know, getting the All Elite graphic recently officially and all that stuff. But I'm also not like super surprised because it's still Orange Cassidy, especially it's Darby Allin and Roderick Strong. Like, he's still out there doing his thing, but this is more, I think, about like how many times can you have like Darby, especially, losing in this feud over and over and over. Obviously, that also carried into last night with the coffin match with Gabe Kidd and Darby Allin, but I totally don't disagree, though, that especially if you're a fan of the Dogs, this is a pretty bad look to come in your first match, you just straight up lose.
Darby was going to win the coffin match, so why did he like really need to win here? Why did he need to be part of the winning team here if he's going to win the coffin match?
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right. And they have Roderick Strong right there to, like, he could have easily taken the pin or submission if they want to continue to protect Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin. Not that Orange Cassidy needs to be like as protected, but like I also don't want to see Orange Cassidy lose every time he's on pay-per-view either. You know what I mean? Like, he's still a pretty valued, asset in AEW. So
we had Andrade defeating Bandito in one of the. I mean, this was probably top 4 matches. It was top 4 because my top 4 in sort of an order were Moxley, Takeshita, FTR, Bucks, Texas Death, and then Andrade and Bandito. But if your top 4 varies from there, I completely understand.
Yeah, so I haven't really thought about it too much, honestly, but I might be right there with you. I really, really like this match, though. This might even be higher for me, honestly. This match was really damn good, and they didn't overdo the 21-plex thing. And in fact, Bandito hit a version of it that I don't think I've seen before, where he hit it from the ground.
Yeah, it ruled.
That ruled. No, that did. I take it all back. No, but that's so much cooler and more quote unquote realistic than somebody just standing there holding the middle rope, bent over and waiting for it. Like this, that was awesome. This match was awesome. Andrade is awesome. This is not even. I know people can make the argument, in ring wise. Maybe you can kind of make an argument. Andrade, Johnny Gargano, like that era of NXT when he was the champion, he had some banger wrestling matches, like undoubtedly. I'm not going to debate that. But right now, as far as like an all-around performer in, out of the ring as a character, what he's doing with like giving the girls his number in the front row and taking pictures with them and all this stuff, like even just the look himself, like with the different mask or the way he's like doing his hair and stuff. It's just whatever he's doing right now, Andrade is by far the most interesting I think he's ever been in his career right now. Like, I actually I didn't even mention him before, but he's another guy who's right there in the world title mix. Like, he keeps winning big matches, and I'm all for them continuing to push Andrade. And even though he's a heel and MJF's a heel, the two of them, when they've interacted backstage and stuff like that, they don't like one another. Like, that's still a match that would have a lot of heat between the two of them, and it would be an awesome in-ring match. So I can't say enough good things about Andrade doing the best work of his career right now. And it's also a shame for the WWE. I know that, I don't know how personal the stuff was. It was like him and, Charlotte was there and all that stuff. I don't know what all went into Andrade wanting to leave WWE or what happened there, why it didn't work when he went back. But I had my reservations. I'll admit, when Andrade came back to AEW, I was like, it wasn't great the first time, but it wasn't bad. I was there in Atlanta when he had the match with Cody and went through the flames. Like, I've got his action figure, his AEW figure. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted it to work for Andrade, but will it really work if he comes back to AEW? He came back. I was kind of on the fence about it. No, I'm completely all in. Like, I am definitely an Andrade guy right now. So all for him winning the match, all for him getting a push, continued push towards the world title. Maybe not winning the world title, but I wouldn't be mad about it either, maybe. And Bandito, this was an incredible match. He always has great matches. The 21-plex thing irks me, but he totally made me eat crow on that. Like, he hit a version of it that I have to give him credit for, where that looked great. He needs to do that more often. Hit that move from the ground more often. I'll stop talking shit. Like, that's the one thing about him that bothers me, and I'll stop talking shit about it. Like, so yeah, this was great.
I wouldn't go to it too often. If you do, please make it the finish, because I kind of thought it should have been the finish here. I'm glad Andrade won. I think Andrade winning was the right call, and the finish was great in this match. But it does feel like if you're going to do that kind of deadlift 21-plex, that should probably be the finish.
I also don't know how many people can pull that off as the person taking it, because you pretty much have to do, like, you have to push yourself up enough too. Like,
yeah,
I know it is I know it's obviously a lot on Bandito, the strength and manipulating your body like that. I mean, a lot of credit to him too, but I also don't know how many people would be able to, like, straight up take that either that way. Anyway, it looked great. Match was great. I think the right person won also. Yeah, Andrade is the man right now.
Thekla retained the women's title against Chris Statlander.
Yeah, this one is definitely a match that's going to get lost amongst the rest of the matches on this show. And it's not that I dislike these women. I've talked for years about my fandom of Chris Statlander, especially. And I think Thekla, I didn't expect her to win the title when she did, but I think she's been a pretty good champion so far. This wasn't, unfortunately, it's one of the things. It wasn't a bad match, but on the rest of the show was just so stacked that this is probably the match I was, or at least one of the matches I was probably least interested in as it was happening. And where does Chris Statlander go from here? We'll see. But I wasn't really surprised that Thekla retained the championship.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I mean, it seemed once Thekla won it, she probably wasn't going to lose it in a 2 out of 3 falls match so quickly, especially back to Statlander, because otherwise, why wouldn't you just do the title change here? So Thekla winning makes sense. Hopefully, they can find something different for her, and hopefully Statlander can kind of get back on track in some way, because unfortunately, as the champion, she kind of lost momentum the longer the reign went. It was kind of out of nowhere, because I don't think anybody expected Toni Storm to lose in the manner she did. And then she beat Toni Storm in a one-on-one match. She beat Mercedes, but she's kind of lost momentum from actually being the champion, which you don't want to happen. New AEW Women's Tag Team Champions, Divine Dominion, Lena Cross, Megan Bayne. They beat Babes of Wrath earlier in the night. Willow beat Lena to retain the TBS title, and then they attacked Willow after, banged up her shoulder, and then essentially squashed the Babes of Wrath here.
Yeah, and I mean, the two matches really went hand in hand, as you mentioned, because Willow taking the loss for the Babes of Wrath to lose the titles because she had been attacked after her win over Cross, excuse me, earlier in the night. So, yeah, I'll kind of say both at once here. Solid match with Willow retaining the championship earlier in the night. We obviously both chose her to retain in our predictions, but new women's tag team champions, congratulations, especially to Megan Bayne, because clearly they had plans for her having these titles, whether it was with Penelope Ford, which seemed pretty clear that's where they were going. But even before they actually announced that there were going to be women's tag titles, or around that time, I remember we would talk on our show around the time they even announced the titles were going to be made. And the first woman we were thinking of, both of us, was pretty much Megan Bayne, because she had recently debuted. She had been teaming with Penelope, and it was we could see her being a big factor in the women's tag division. And so it's not surprising that she is one half of the tag champions, and with Penelope out, Lena Cross steps in, and she's solid in her own right. They're a good tag team. So it was just a really fast match, as you mentioned. It was basically a squash, but it made sense with how Willow got attacked. So
yeah, exactly, and hopefully they got a plan for these titles moving forward. Swerve defeated Brody King to prove he is the most dangerous, even more dangerous than Mark Davis's trunks.
Yeah, exactly. This is another good one, a great match, honestly. I mean, I just kind of hope from here they continue to find something big for Brody to do. I don't want to see him just go back into a tag team or something like that. Continue to do something with him, because I still think he brings a lot to the table. But I also think that with where they're going with Swerve, especially with him versus Omega coming up again, I just didn't think there was any way that Swerve was going to lose this match, and he didn't. Which I'm not disappointed about. I'm sounding like I'm disappointed about it. It's just pretty clear that Swerve is going to be figured in to kind of bigger things after this. And I guess that's where I'll ask you now, kind of officially, do you think Omega is going to beat Swerve and be the number one contender?
Yeah, I do. I don't think they're going to go with this Swerve EVP thing, because Swerve won the first one, so it would make sense that Omega wins this one to become the number one contender and challenge MJF. I said this earlier on In the Weeds, but if I'm Swerve and I'm told I'm the number one contender, I'd tell Omega to kick rocks and give me my title shot. Why do I need to face Kenny Omega? I guess that's why he wants him to put the EVP status on the line, but you can just have the title, and then you have power as well. Kenny doesn't care about the EVP title. He said last year that it was extra baggage that he no longer had to deal with. So there's still even a debate if he even has the EVP title. I guess clearly he does, because they're doing this, but it's not like it's been used in storyline fodder for Omega for a year now. And let's say Swerve wins. Okay, so Swerve gets a title shot and he's the EVP. If I'm MJF, I'm well, you put your EVP status on the line, because what's preventing you from, after I beat you and retain the title, from just giving yourself another title shot if you're still the EVP? So I want to be the EVP. It just seems like it could get very convoluted, and I hope they don't actually do it. I mean, if they do, I assume they're going to have some type of plan, but it seems like it could just be a mess.
You're making the EVP title, or whatever you want to call it, sound like the BMF title. It's just all right, this isn't a real thing, but I'm going to call myself the boss, because the big thing there, as you mentioned, I've heard those interviews also. I don't think it was even an interview. I think Kenny Omega was doing a gaming stream or something a couple years ago, when he straight up said like I shouldn't be an EVP. I wasn't a good EVP. Like it really wasn't for me. It made it sound like he wasn't an EVP anymore. Maybe he has some sort of financial stake there in the. I mean, he's technically like a founder of the company. I'd imagine he's got some sort of skin in the game. I would imagine to some degree. I just don't know how. I don't know. I don't know how that works out. I didn't think he was even an EVP anymore, honestly. So it was kind of random that they brought that up because, they did the whole thing with the Young Bucks, obviously, that whole storyline. That's kind of gone full circle now with them being the EVPs. And you mentioned that also, like we'd have another evil EVP with Swerve. The thing that makes it less likely for me, honestly, is just that, MJF's obviously the top heel in the company and Swerve is basically the other top heel of the company. And if you want Swerve or MJF to really, truly be a heel and get booed, the fans are probably going to choose one or the other at some point. Like there's going to be, it creates a kind of a weird dynamic, but at the same time, like they would definitely have a great match and it would be interesting to hear who the fans sided with. But I just think just makes more sense for, Omega to win. You don't have to deal with the whole EVP storyline again, really. And then we get Omega versus MJF. And then that also becomes a question mark because, I would imagine MJF would retain. But, the thing for me is, when is All In? When does that show actually happen? I'm so bad with my dates.
All In's not till August. It's back in August this year.
Okay, so we have basically half of March, April, May, June, July, August. So 5 months from now, who's going to be the champion against Ospreay? And him almost working backwards from there. Like right now, you still got another 5 months. I'd keep the title on MJF. But Omega has had quite the resurgence lately. Once again, they have a whole list of credible number one contenders, really. So it's a good spot for AEW to be in as far as like the top of their roster for sure. But yeah, that's where I'm at with all that. Did Jeremy freeze on me? Or did I freeze?
Yeah, I froze. No, it was me.
Oh, Jeremy froze. All right, we're good. We're back.
I don't know if MJF is going to keep the title for the entire time. He could eventually lose it and then get it back.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to think, a little bit ahead just because it just seems like such a foregone conclusion that Ospreay will be. It's weird. I shouldn't think so much about that, but it just seems so obvious that they're going to do that it's like between now and then, are you going to hot potato the title? Like, I guess let's make an early prediction here. Who do you think Ospreay's opponent is going to be? Like, who do you think the champion is going into that show?
I do think it will be MJF. I do. But I would not be shocked if he lost it between now and All In, but got it back.
I see. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know. I personally prefer just a long run, heading into it. But, once again, they're so stacked. I want to see Darby Allin win the championship at some point, for sure.
I think that'll happen. I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. And then finally on this show, I saved it for last for a reason. Not because Toni Storm and Marina Shafir was like a great match or anything, but Ronda Rousey confronted Toni Storm and she is free to appear in AEW because Tony Khan said she's invited to AEW.
Yeah.
I think of Ronda Rousey showing up.
So that whole thing is pretty crazy, kind of, because as far as the match itself, it was what it was. It was solid for like the 10 minutes it went on. Tony winning wasn't like super surprising. I think we both chose her in our predictions to win. But Marina is improving a lot. I've given her a lot of credit as well. But yes, the bigger news here is definitely Ronda Rousey debuting in AEW. She had that one weird random one-off Ring of Honor match nobody ever talks about. Remember that a couple
Yeah,
years ago?
she did back-to-back matches. Her and Marina against Billy and Athena, and Billy suplexed her on her head.
That's right. That's right. Billiam.
That's all I remember from both of those matches is Billy suplexed her on her head.
That's funny. Shout out to our boy Mouse. But yeah, Rousey, the whole thing with her is very interesting right now, just in general, because you have obviously the big fight coming up, her versus Gina Carano. That's on Netflix. Netflix is in business with the WWE, which is owned by TKO. But obviously, Ronda Rousey wrestling for AEW, that's not. It's just interesting how many different hands are in the cookie jar now with some of the people we're talking about, and just looking to see, how these partnerships and these, it's a really interesting time. We're going to talk about a bit more about that when we talk about Nate Diaz and Mike Perry being added to the Netflix MMA show. But seeing Ronda, it was surprising because I really didn't expect her to show up in pro wrestling really at all, especially this close to her fight with Carano. But she's also on this just screw TKO campaign right now where she's publicly talking trash about Hunter Campbell, who's one of the matchmakers of the UFC and basically one of Dana White's right-hand men, and she's had her issues, of course, with Dana and with the company and all this stuff. So it's like she's really going out there and saying, screw TKO, I'm doing this fight on Netflix independently, essentially, and I'm also doing some sort of business with the top wrestling promotion in the world that isn't the WWE. And once again, WWE and Netflix are in business together. So it's like, it's just really, really interesting to see her show up. And I'd imagine she'll have some sort of match in AEW, but I would think it would happen after the Carano fight. This is also going to be good promotion, regardless of what anyone thinks about the actual match itself. Me and Jeremy have talked about our thoughts on the Rousey-Carano match weeks ago when it was announced, but this is extra promotion for AEW. It's extra promotion for the fight and Ronda, making her. I mean, even on the Helwani show this past week, I was listening to a lot of that show, and there were some people that they're talking MMA and they don't really follow wrestling like we do, and they were like, yeah, Ronda showed up on that. They didn't even know the name of AEW, but they were like, yeah, we saw Ronda showed up on that other wrestling show. You know what I mean? Like it's more buzz than Ronda Rousey's had in a really long time. And AEW is going to benefit in some way, shape, or form from that, probably, at least a little bit. So, yeah, I was surprised to see her.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were surprised to see her, honestly. It definitely came out of nowhere. It'll be... I don't know what to make of it yet, because she's gonna be promoting the fight, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But is she gonna be able to wrestle before the fight? Part of me thinks she will, because I don't think this fight is a serious fight, and I think she's gonna win kind of handily regardless. So sure, why not wrestle? And as long as you don't get hurt, it's fine. But there's always a possibility that she does get hurt, and that would be good. I guess it's promotion for AEW, but is she going to show up consistently? Tony, they did the angle where Tony got attacked before Dynamite. If Tony's out for a while, where do you pivot there? Because the whole thing was Tony and Ronda. You got to pivot to something else if Tony's going to be out for a while, right? But that kind of throws off the Revolution thing. So just where do you go off of that if Ronda's going to show up? I don't know if she's going to show up consistently either. That's the thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think she'll show up that consistently. And like I said, I don't think that she'll wrestle until after she fights Carano. I think she'll just make appearances maybe with Marina or with the Death Riders. And I don't think they can afford... I know it's obviously a much more controlled environment doing pro wrestling than MMA as far as, protecting your opponent and that kind of stuff. Excuse me. But I still think there's too much invested in the Netflix card that I don't think they would allow Ronda to risk any sort of injury doing a pro wrestling match. Kind of similar to the WWE won't let Logan Paul box prior to WrestleMania because they're like, dude, you're too big of an asset to us now. We're needing you to wrestle on WrestleMania. We're not gonna let you box somebody right before WrestleMania and maybe get hurt. So I think that's kind of what's happening with Ronda right now. But Ronda could benefit, and so could AEW potentially, because once again, regardless of what you think of this Netflix show, it's potentially going to be the most watched MMA show ever because of how many people are subscribed to Netflix. So if Ronda's on that show and they can get any kind of AEW shout out of any kind, just something, whether it's like on the fight banner or it's on her trunks or they just mention it on commentary, just as they can get any kind of rub for AEW during her fight, that's a win for AEW because of how many people are going to watch this fight and go, oh wait, Ronda still wrestles? Where? And like they might tune into AEW. Like, so that's where I think the value potentially is there.
I mean, possibly. Again, if she's showing up sort of consistently. If not, then okay, Ronda's in AEW. Maybe you check it out. But then if she's not on the show the following week, do you stick? If she loses, like, are you gonna watch her in AEW after she loses? Like, I think it's helpful for AEW. I don't want to overinflate like how much I actually think a Ronda Rousey appearance is going to mean for like the overall growth or numbers of AEW. It's kind of the same thing I say with when it comes to WWE stuff. Is like, okay, you have Jelly Roll right now. Jelly Roll fans might be tuning in to see Jelly Roll, but are they sticking around? Are they tuning in to see Jelly? Like, do they really care that Jelly Roll does wrestling stuff? Like, is this really throwing huge numbers for WWE? They have that stuff. We have the metrics that we have, but based on what we have, it helps a little bit, but it's not like there's not tangible evidence that it's like, oh man, Jelly Roll added like 10,000 viewers or 100,000 viewers or 1 million viewers. Like, you can't see that. Like, maybe he adds a couple hundred. Okay, that's fine. That's something. Do they stick around? And it's the same thing with Ronda. And then you have the AEW fans who, like, the majority of them don't really want Ronda there. So is that worth, like, maybe Ronda gets you a little bit of like casual eyeballs there. But most of the AEW fans are like, yeah, we'd just rather not see her at all.
Well, and also it could backfire potentially if Ronda loses, if she just straight up refuses to show her face anywhere, like, because she doesn't really handle losing well. So like, it would also be a bummer for AEW if they make this agreement with Ronda to get some sort of promotion during her Netflix fight, and they're expecting her to have a match for AEW, and then like she gets her ass kicked by Gina Carano and then just decides, I don't want to do wrestling and I don't want to be in the public and this kind of stuff again. Like, she also didn't have the best things to say about pro wrestling when she left the WWE, but that was also a lot of it was directed like at the WWE itself and people in the WWE. But, she doesn't have the best track record of handling losses well and of burning bridges. So and like the Hollywood thing has totally fizzled. I'm not big on, keeping up with movies and that kind of stuff, but I can't imagine Ronda is like doing anything like she was when she was in like all these movies and TV shows and stuff. Like, so the Netflix MMA thing is very big because once again, how many people are subscribed to Netflix and can potentially watch that fight? But once again, like I said, I don't know if she loses. I don't know if she even wrestles for AEW.
Yeah, and again, will AEW even get any type of a shout out? Like
who knows?
We don't know, because I don't think you're gonna see that much promotion on like Raw for it, and even if they do promote like Ronda on AEW, I do think they will promote the WWE stuff on the boxing show a little bit more than they're gonna promote, especially now that Ronda's in AEW. I think WWE would have promoted the Ronda fight if she wasn't in AEW, but now they have every reason to say, why are we gonna promote this fight when she is appearing on our competitors' television? And Netflix will have to basically choose if they want to fight that battle of like, well, we're Netflix. This is a fight on a Netflix platform. You're a Netflix partner. You got to promote the Netflix show. Or do they look at it and be like, yeah, probably not the best idea for you guys to promote this show because then you might be attracting eyeballs to the competition, and that doesn't actually help us when we already know we're going to get a ton of viewers from. We already know we're going to get a ton of viewers on this fight anyway. So how much are you guys really bringing in to this fight? Like, how much awareness are you really bringing in to this fight? I think it'll be an interesting thing to follow over the next couple of months before the fight to see like how much promotion there is from the WWE side and from the Netflix side. Obviously there'll be plenty on the Netflix side, but from the WWE side of how much they promote this fight.
Yep, that's exactly like I was saying. It's like there's just all these different hands from these huge multi-billion-dollar companies in like the same cookie jars now, which it's kind of unprecedented how we're seeing it right now. So yeah, very interesting.
Yeah. All right, that was AEW Revolution.
Well, it was almost. Jack Perry also won. We don't need to get into all of that.
This is the best match on the show and the greatest match of all time, but yeah.
Match I thought a royal winner. Ricochet no longer champion. Ricochet probably should watch what he's saying online. Also, we had Boom and Doom out there doing their thing. Always going to be a big QT guy after he did our show. He was very gracious with it. He did that show during like ROH taping or something, like outside. That was awesome. He's the man.
Just before Collision taping, pretty sure.
Yeah, there you go. So, always going to be rooting for QT. I think it's an absolute travesty that he does not have an AEW action figure of any kind still. He's been in the company literally since day one. Make this man an action figure, please. And Big Boom, I feel like Big Boom's going to get an action figure before QT does. You got to make a whole like 4-pack of Big Boom, Big Justice, the Rizzler, and QT Marshall all together. That'd actually be awesome. I would definitely buy that. And the infantry is underrated too. Those guys always do exactly what they need to, and their role on this show was to make sure that Big Boom and QT look good and that the Rizzler got his spot in. I feel so bad for that kid. I've said it 1,000 times. I know we have friends like Vinny Pacifico that like hang out with them and shoot content with them and stuff like that. And like, that's all like I as human beings, like these all seem like good people. They really do. It's really cool they get to like live out their dreams like this. I don't have a problem with that. The issue I have is the Rizzler specifically, because I feel so bad that like this kid has just been trained. Like if you see the light of the camera, just touch your face. Just start doing the thing. Start doing nonstop. Start doing the thing. Do the thing. Do the thing. Do the thing. And it's like, man, I very interested to see what the Rizzler's life looks like 10 years from now. But
kid's probably
anyway,
rich. So.
No, I'm not saying that even necessarily negatively. I'm just saying I don't know where you go from here, because like, is he always just going to be the kid who's just rubbing his face, doing the face, rubbing the face, making the face, just a little Rizzler? I feel like he'll do some sort of, he'll wind up being like some like jacked pro wrestler one day. He'll do he'll make some like huge body transformation and become like some like super jacked pro wrestler one day. Remember that kid when, by the way, like the little Schwarzenegger kid when we were growing up?
Oh yeah.
I think he's just like a regular looking guy now. I think after like enough time, he was like, I can't keep doing this to myself. I don't like my life. And I think he just like looks normal now. But anyway, yeah, that's totally off topic. But yeah, that now concludes our review of AEW Revolution.
All right. let's jump into the Netflix card a little bit here.
Our product is what it is. We're going straight up the middle.
Nate Diaz and Mike Perry has been added to this show, Jensen.
Yeah, it's actually a genius fight. And I get that, like, the eye-rolly aspect of this. The guys are both out of their prime. They're older.
This show's headlined by Gina Carano and Ronda Rousey.
I was getting to that. So you're defending it also. That's good.
Yes.
So because I've heard, both sides of this also. There's a lot of people that don't like this fight is happening, but I think there's way more support for this fight than any of the others. The Ngannou versus Philip Lenz fight also, like, it's cool to see Ngannou, but everyone knows it's just like Lenz is just like walking to the slaughter. Like, this is gonna be like you're watching Ngannou just destroy somebody, but it's a squash match. So like there's value in that to some degree, but Nate Diaz and Mike Perry are two guys who are going to throw down. Like, you're going to get an actual fight out of these guys. For people who might not know, Mike Perry, since leaving the UFC, has gone on this like legendary bare knuckle fighting run where he's won his last 7 fights in a row or something like that. He's knocking people out. He had a boxing match against Jake Paul during that time as well, and lost. But Mike Perry has been very, very, very successful in the bare knuckle boxing world since leaving the UFC and stayed very active. And Nate Diaz, he had the boxing match also against Jake Paul and lost since leaving the UFC. But Nate hasn't fought in MMA since a few years back when he beat Tony Ferguson in the UFC. And this was, Tony Ferguson was long past his prime at that point. If you remember, Nate really dodged a bullet that night. He was supposed to fight Khamzat Chimaev, and they wound up having to switch the fights last minute, and Nate wound up getting Ferguson instead. It went from Nate probably getting absolutely destroyed on his way out of the UFC to him getting a win on his way out of the UFC, which was pretty wild turn of events. But when I saw this fight announced, my first thing was like, oh man, like, I don't know how I feel about this. And then I thought about it and I was like, this is actually perfect. You're going to get a good fight out of these two, especially coming off of, the UFC. A lot of the fans are down on that product, myself included, for a variety of reasons. The BMF title fight, even though I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan and I'm impressed when I see what he did to Max Holloway, when you label it and market it as the BMF title match, that's not what people are wanting. But I'm just saying, like, I understand the fan backlash that thought that they were going to get two guys just swinging. And
no, I get it, but
put on a masterclass of grappling.
Yeah, I get it. But this is the whole thing with the BMF title fight is like, it's a dumb fake title. And you set yourself up for some of these situations. If one guy decides, hey, it's dumb to just stand here and throw punches when I can just take him down and I'll grapple him like Oliveira did, which good on Oliveira. That's what he should have done. Win the fight, not some... Winning the fight is more important than looking good in defeat and potentially getting knocked out, but we satisfied the bloodthirsty fans even though we're all underpaid and stuff. No, get your win bonus. Charles Oliveira rules.
No, I completely agree. I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan, and I like what being able to see him do that. And also, by the way, it's kind of on topic too. I know better than this, but there was a discount on some of the. So on some of these gambling apps, or whatever you want to call them, parlay predicting app, whatever you want to call them. You guys know what companies I'm talking about. They had a discounted option on Max Holloway to where they reduced the strikes he needed from 60 something down to 30. They cut it in half as hey, throw your money in. We're gonna give you a really good deal. Take the Max Holloway strikes, and you're probably gonna hit big. And I avoided that because I've been burned way too many times on stuff like that where it looks too good to be true. And I've watched way too many UFC fights to know. And sure enough, all these people got pissed off. They put all this money into Max Holloway, and he wound up only landing like 20 something strikes the entire fight because Oliveira. So I think that added to it too. I think a lot of people lost a lot of money that night, and they saw a fight that they thought was going to be just a banger, and it wasn't. But once again, shout out and credit to Charles Oliveira. He's the man. But that said, the reason I brought it up is because a lot of those fans are going to see something like Nate Diaz and Mike Perry and be like, okay, this is the opposite of that. Like, we're guaranteed. Now, granted, Nate Diaz could take down Mike Perry and he would destroy him on the ground probably, as far as like the difference in jiu-jitsu and ground skill that Nate Diaz, you have a massive advantage on the ground. But Nate isn't the guy really historically, especially in this kind of fight, I think, where I don't think he's going to be like pulling guard or like going for a leg. I think they're going to throw down. And if it comes down to it, maybe they start grappling. But Mike Perry will fight. I mean, he pretty much was known as the guy who just like would right angle his nose every time he fought. Like he would, this guy can, these two guys have insane chins, and they are known to really throw a lot of strikes, a lot of volume, and be able to absorb a lot of punishment as well. So yeah, this is I mean, they've only announced the 3 fights so far for Netflix, but this is like, I can't even quantify how much better of like an actual fight this is than anything else they've announced so far.
It should be a good fight. Like I'm looking forward to this show. It's right up my alley of just train wreck MMA. So I'm all for that. So yeah. I like Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz always comes to fight, and even if he doesn't come to fight, he's gonna do some dumb shit. So that's entertaining. So yeah, I'm for it.
Yeah, this the lead up to the fight. Well, I'm sure we'll see some interesting press conferences. The Diaz brothers will probably throw water bottles at the management.
Nate and Nick are on great terms right now.
Yeah, I saw something about that. I'm confused by it. I've seen it kind of back and forth where, you know, people are saying they're on the outs, and like there was some weird like Instagram stuff or something, but then like Nate was posting pictures of the two of them together, I think not that long ago. Okay. But I don't know if you saw the little clip of Nick the night of the BMF title fight that was on. It kind of went kind of viral. Oh man, it hit me in the feels. There was a clip of Nick Diaz standing by himself at a bar staring at a giant TV screen, and it pans from Oliveira and Holloway, like the end of their fight. Someone was recording and it just pans. It's just Nick Diaz just standing there with his hands in his pockets watching the BMF fight by himself. And it's like, you know, he's trying to get back in. Nick is still, I think, contractually obligated to the UFC for at least another couple fights. So like he would have to fight for the UFC if he comes back. Again, the Robbie Lawler fight was not good for him. Like that did not, you know, it doesn't make me really want to see him necessarily. But with all this money being made, dude, Netflix, I'm just saying, if he can get over there, he'd make a huge bag.
I've got no real interest in a Nick Diaz fight. I mean, it depends on who you put him against. Putting him against Robbie Lawler was kind of a death sentence. But yeah, I have no interest in a Nick Diaz fight. Of course, whatever they announce, I'll watch it. So
yes,
I'm the wrong person to you know, be like, have some moral high ground over a Nick Diaz fight, because I'll watch it if they announce a fight. But as of right, based on, you know, the last time he was in the cage, no interest in what he does next. Yeah, I just hope Nick's good. Nick's had some rough times. I hope Nick's good more than anything.
Yeah, that whole thing is, you know, I don't want to get too into it. I don't know, and honestly, like the ins and outs of it, I just see surface level stuff that pops up every now and then, and it looks like his whole career he's kind of had his ups and downs for sure. But like, at the end of the day, especially a guy who, I mean, his run, especially in Strikeforce, was one of my favorite eras in the history of MMA, like what he was doing in Strikeforce. And then when he came back to the UFC, what people might not know about Nick Diaz is when he was real young, he was in the UFC and he knocked out Robbie Lawler really early in his career. It was a big upset knockout at the time. And he built a bit of a name for himself, wound up leaving the UFC, had this crazy run in Strikeforce, had this run in Pride where he go plotted talking to Gomi when Gomi was one of the best lightweights in the world, and the fight famously got reversed because of weed, failing for weed. It was like the only Pride fight that happened in the U.S. also. Like, it was such a. And then Nick also had to deal with being suspended from the UFC for all these years because of weed, and just like, yeah, he missed out on so much of his career, and so much of his prime. It's just unfortunate. So on one hand, it's like, yeah, as like a pioneer of the sport and one of my favorite fighters ever, I don't want to see Nick come back and like tarnish his legacy or like go out there and get hurt. But the other side of me is like, this guy was always one of the biggest as far as like negotiating against these other companies, trying to get fighter pay raise and stuff. It'd be nice if he could make a few $1 million to fight, even if they could find someone who actually was comparable level. You know what I mean? I'm with you as far as like, I'm not trying to see Nick Diaz go out there and fight somebody right now who looks like they're just going to kill him. But like, if you found someone who was around where he was at, like, and he can make like $2-3 million for one fight, like that's, I can't hate on that. Nate's probably going to make at least $5 million for this. So, you know.
Yeah. All right, let's go to WWE.
I need to finish the story. In the WWE, the story never finishes.
Randy Orton murdered Cody Rhodes, and he's going to win the title at WrestleMania. Thank the Lord.
Well, the roller coaster is going to retain at WrestleMania, but what you just said also happened. We were saying it, you know, pretty much since it was made clear that it was going to be Orton versus Cody at WrestleMania, that someone was going to turn, and we all expected it to be Orton, and it was, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes in pro wrestling, a lot of times in pro wrestling, actually, the predictable thing is just the thing to do. Whether people like it or not, you know, they're peppering in some booze here and there, depending on the city. On Cody, he's their guy. He's still the top babyface in WWE. And I'll stand on business once again and say this should be the night 2 main event. So, well, it'd be probably not, but I'm going to keep banging that drum until until it's official one way or the other. But star power is there. Randy Orton's one of the best of all time, especially according to the WWE themselves. And, Cody is, my favorite. So night 2. But either way, they're main eventing WrestleMania, so we'll just call it that. You know, they made a big deal out of it last year. CM Punk's main eventing WrestleMania. Technically, yes.
I mean, it's more than a smattering of boos. They were cheering Randy Orton for beating Cody's ass on Friday.
So there's some interesting layers with this, because you have Orton's character really is more about, the way that I view it at least, it isn't really a personal thing, at least yet, between him and Cody. It's more like, if you didn't win the title, I was going to do this to Drew. You know what I mean? Like, this is about me winning the championship, and now you've put yourself in this position, and now you're the person who's going to have to deal with this. And I thought the turn was done really well. I mean, he beat the shit out of Cody, blood everywhere. I mean, it was, got the point across. This is like 3 WrestleManias in a year now, I think, where Cody in the build-up, him versus Rock, him versus Cena, where he's been a bloody mess in the feud heading into the WrestleMania itself. But this was good. This was really, I mean, obviously as a Cody guy, I don't like seeing Cody get his ass kicked, but as far as a storyline goes, you know, this is a good way to kick that off. And now you can, keep peeling back layers and tell the story about Randy Orton being Cody's first ever WWE match, and how they had their history and legacy, and Cody leaving the company and coming back, blah, blah, blah. You have a lot you can work with between now and WrestleMania. And this is a match that was inevitable. Like, when Cody came back to WWE, one of the first things people said was, well, him versus Randy Orton writes itself. At some point, we got to get that, right? And I love the fact, as a Cody fan, they're doing that at WrestleMania. So I'm all about it. And Cody's going to retain.
I don't think Cody's going to retain.
Do you think that they continue to, like, tread the territory of Orton actually overcoming Cena's number? Because Orton's at like 14 right now, isn't he? So if you won at WrestleMania, you'd be at 15. It's totally possible, especially if Orton wants, because he takes so much time off also with his injuries and stuff, that, like, and I think he's even said recently he still wants to wrestle another like 5 or 10 years or something. Yeah. So I mean, it's very, very possible he's going to be the one to overtake Cena unless they kind of pump the brakes on this and Cody retains.
I think they're going to continue to tease that he could surpass Cena. And by doing that, you got to get him closer to 18. I don't think they're going to speed run it. I mean, he's got to win the title 3 more times, right? 15, 16, 17, 8, 4 more times. So,
well, to tie it technically, I mean, you could technically tie Cena, but you would that would be lame for Cena, especially because he publicly said he wants to be the guy to, like, you know, he wanted to win 17, so he could be the one to congratulate whoever won 18. So if Orton just stopped at 17, that would be, you know. But the two of them were very, you know, they were the same exact generation, rivals to a degree. But anyway, do you think? Well, I guess let me ask you this: do you think Randy Orton eventually will surpass John Cena?
I don't know about that. I don't know. Like, I don't think Orton needs the title at this point.
Right. Let Cody retain.
I don't know if Cody needs the title at this point.
Better Cody.
I do think Orton's gonna win, though. I think Orton's gonna win the match, and I'm sorry that your heart will be broken.
No, it's all good. I think I strongly disagree. It's gonna be good.
I mean, Cody's not the top baby face in the company now. Like, he's getting booed when he's out there.
The top baby face in the company, to be fair, is El Grande Americano in Triple A. That might be the top baby face in the entire company right now.
I mean, the real top baby face in the company is Jey Uso, but that's a different discussion.
Well, it kind of ties into the other WWE topic you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, you're old, Jensen. Fight me.
That's it. So the back and forth was pretty solid again this week. Obviously, they're coming off of the Roman's dad thing from Punk the previous week. I liked the line about whatever he said, like, I'm not going to call you, like, you call me Phil or whatever. That's what my friends call me, but I'll never call you Joe because it's, like, disrespectful to, like, Samoa Joe, but he didn't say Samoa Joe. Stuff like that. Like, it was good. But it was interesting that the thing that put Punk over the edge was just calling him old, because that doesn't seem like that much of a burn. But then Roman was smiling, after he got punched, which I think the message they're trying to convey is, Punk's been talking over and over about how he's in Roman's head, and that's why he's saying the stuff about Roman that he's saying. And I think Roman's going to kind of be able to come back now and be like, dude, all I called you was old and you hit me. Like, I'm like, you're in my head. I'm in your, and I think a lot of people were expecting him to drop a line about Larry because you're coming off of the thing with his dad. And that's where you can literally be like, I called you old. I didn't even have to bring up Larry and you punched me. And like, that's, and that's like I feel like that's going to burn. Like, that's a pretty good dig, So like, I think that's kind of what the point of it was, honestly, because him calling him old really isn't that, when you talk about, the part-time stuff too, because, CM Punk's talking all about him being part-time, blah, blah, blah. And it's like AJ Lee took all this time off and they were kind of going there too. And it's like, it's at the very least, it's interesting between one another. That's, I don't know. How did you feel about it? Do you think do you think I've looked too deeply into this and it's just that was kind of a lame insult and he punched him and like they're kind of 1-1 now, or
no? Yeah. I think that was the point. Is Punk has said all this stuff about Roman and Roman just dismisses it because he's cool, calm, collected Roman, and like this stuff just doesn't bother him. And then Roman says a very simple insult of "you are old," and Punk flies off with the handle, and that's what they are trying to convey here. I still think it's a lame insult. I think the message has been all over the place as far as the content of things, because Punk talks about Roman's dad, and then Roman has no real response to that. Everything they did with the Usos segment didn't really come out here because Punk didn't address, like, these fans still cheer for you when, you've never apologized and everything. Like, you got a lot to own up to that you haven't done. Like, he never brought any of that stuff up. I thought it was extremely lame on both parts of Roman tries to leave and Punk keeps cutting him off. And then Roman just, like, willingly gets back in the ring, gets called a young boy, and just, again, I guess the message is, well, Roman's cool, and so he doesn't need to stoop to physical violence to do anything there, because he's just too cool for that. But Roman, before he said that, he said, when you got something, like, interesting to say to me, then you'll have my attention. And Punk keeps cutting him off, so I'm like, okay, he must have something interesting to say. And Punk's big line was just like, I'm gonna pin you at WrestleMania. It's like, that's your big interesting thing? That's why you kept him in the ring? Like, if I was Roman, I would have punched him right there for wasting my time. Oh, it's just I didn't think it was a very good segment on Monday, honestly. I thought it was pretty lame overall. And I hope they can get it back on track.
I'll say what it sounds like to me is this kind of sounds like a night one main event type segment to you. Well, let me ask you this. What segment was better this past week? The Orton heel turn or what we just discussed with Punk and Roman?
Punk and Roman, because they got the desired reaction from the crowd and not a big turn, and they cheered the person who turned and booed the guy who's supposed to be the babyface.
Yeah, that's a bunch of like loser wrestling fans in one city just trying to be like you're talking about trying to be cool and like that's all that is. That's just getting with that's because you listen to certain podcasters or follow certain social media accounts and I'm talking about I'm talking about you people in the crowd. Okay. This is we've seen this happen before to plenty of people. I talked about it last week. We saw it happen to Cena. That's the most egregious example. It hasn't gotten to that point at all with Cody, but it could eventually. And the WWE will have to make a decision. Will you actually turn this guy like you never would with Cena until it was way too late, or do you just continue to run the course? And either way, see. The thing with me is this is almost like a Step Brothers type situation. You know that scene where they realize like they're best friends or whatever, and they have like I think that they're like playing with binoculars or something. And like, oh, these are so cool. It's been awesome to have them. We were like 12. It's like even better. We got them when we were 40. This is like kind of like that for me, where it's like, okay, I was in my teenage to college age era for the majority of Cena's run of Super Cena, and I was in the crowd doing the John Cena sucks chants and all that stuff, right? But now that I can live this out when I'm 40, I get another chance at this, and Cody's my guy, and no matter what happens, I'm going to be cheering for him. So he could be a heel, he could be a baby face. I'm going to be the guy rocking the hustle, loyalty, respect. Only this time, it's going to be the do the work, finish the story. Even though the story's already been finished 3 times now, but you get the point I'm making here. I can relive I can right the wrongs of how he treated John Cena and just blindly support Cody Rhodes forever.
I do think the Orton and Cody segment was better this week.
Thank you for admitting that.
It's not the night one main event. Now, if Roman and Punk continue down this way and Cody and Orton can escalate even further, I'm willing to revisit this conversation, because that latest Roman and Punk segment sucked so bad that it hurt my interest in the match. I don't think Cody and Orton can get there, but I'll give them some leeway here. I'll give them some benefit that I won't fully dismiss it out of respect to you and your Cody fandom.
I think that you should bring this up to Joel and SP3 during In the Weeds in upcoming episodes and get their take on this, because I think they're going to both immediately default to, well, it's Roman and Punk. It's like pretty clear that they've positioned it like it's Roman. But when you really think about it, let's start really keeping tabs on what happens week to week between both of these title scenes. And if it, like you said, if it continues to be kind of weak sauce on the Raw brand with Punk and Roman, which we kind of also got last year, for really being honest. It was a triple threat match, but like it's kind of like rinse and repeat a little bit. It's kind of lame.
Last year. Sorry, we got Cody and Cena last year. That's
Cena,
the same as
yeah,
Cody
in a dream match. That's a different dynamic completely. That's John Cena, never seen 17 after the heel.
He's a
turn,
heel.
But it's a totally
Randy Orton's
different.
gonna wrestle like a heel.
Okay, well that's kind of the same a little bit. I see what you're saying, but
Jelly Roll's gonna come out in this main event and turn on Cody and cost Cody the title.
Listen, I'll say this: I would much rather watch Big Boom than Jelly Roll. 10 times out of 10.
That's not a hot take, I don't think.
It's not a hot take at all. I feel like there's a lot more Jelly Roll fans out there.
Well, I mean, maybe, but like from the wrestling community, I think Big Boom's got way more respect from the wrestling community than Jelly Roll does.
That's facts. But anyway, yeah, I saw some sort of like rumor that they might do like Jelly Roll and Royce Keys teaming or something. It's like that's so random. Really, that's funny. The Royce Keys thing is also a whole other conversation. Debut the guy and then not main event, but like the show main event, and then just ghosted.
Yeah.
He'll probably be like a Raw after WrestleMania surprise or something. I don't know.
Let's get into our last topic here.
I'm gonna give a big motherfucking shout out.
Is Marko Stunt coming out of retirement, Stephen Jensen?
It sure looks that way. I don't know why you would do all and not do a match. I mean, I was more surprised. Well, I'm obviously surprised by Marko wrestling just because he was so adamant leading up to the. If you don't know what we're talking about, Marko Stunt recently made an appearance at GCW. He, in the ring on the microphone, was basically doing his goodbye speech to wrestling. I know people had seen him recently in like the video promoting him being car salesman and stuff. It really looked like he had distanced himself from pro wrestling. Hadn't showed up in AEW in years. He made like that random appearance during a Jack Perry match like a couple years back, and nothing since then. Still, by the way, one of the biggest travesties I mentioned QT Marshall earlier. One of the biggest travesties in AEW history. I'll say it 1,000 times. Marko Stunt never getting an action figure when they made that Jurassic Express 2-pack. Marko should have been in there. So disappointed. Should have had an action figure. Former Sub-Graps Bone Storm champion, Marko Stunt. But when he came out to make his announcement, everything looked pretty normal. And then AJ Orso hits him with that. Essentially, it's like a curb stomp, but it's more of like a missile drop kick to the back of your head. And so even more kind of surprising. So it's surprising right there, right? Because you're thinking, oh, wow.
Your mic is like, it sounds like you're like underground or something.
Really?
Yeah, it's just kind of cutting off a little bit.
Did that just start?
Yeah, it just started when we were talking about this stuff, but I don't know. Is everybody can everybody hear that?
Is it still happening?
No, it seems okay now. You can keep going.
Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. Nothing. I didn't change anything. But I was just saying that, I was surprised when KJ attacked Marko, because then I'm immediately thinking, okay, well, Marko, thank you, Power Finisher, saying it's better now. Okay. I think that, that in itself was surprising, because it's like, okay, well, Marco's probably going to wrestle KJ. I don't know why they do it. And then Sam Stackhouse out of nowhere turns heel and realigns with KJ after this feud that went on forever between KJ and Sam. Well, just kind of, I don't want to say we're supposed to just forget about that. I'm sure storyline wise, they'll explain, that they have like this brotherhood, they know each other and brothers fight and blah, 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 almost like a Sami Zayn, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens type relationship, I believe is probably the kind of the angle they'll take with that. But I was surprising. I did not expect Sam Stackhouse. So I was thinking they'll either do KJ versus Marko, or they'll do like Marko and a partner versus KJ and Sam, maybe Nick Gage or something. Like maybe Nick Gage comes back and teams with Marko or something. I don't know. I mean, it definitely looks like Marko is going to be coming back in wrestling at least one more time. So, as a Marko guy, I'm happy to see it. I hope that he's also, happy and successful outside of wrestling. I think it's very. I'm not in his head. I don't know what he wants. I don't know what his goals and his dreams and everything are. I think he lived a pretty awesome dream by being a part of AEW at launch. He had a great indie run. Like I said, he was the champion of Southern Underground Pro, my favorite indie promotion, Subgraps. He had a great run there, had a really great run in GCW. Like I said, did his thing in AEW. There's nothing wrong with, I think what I'm getting to is I think it's respectable, and there's nothing wrong with if you get out of wrestling healthy at like a younger age and you find like a career that you enjoy, like it's really cool to be able to say you totally lived your dream and you have proof of it. Like you're on merchandise and, you're on television on the Turner networks and all this stuff. And like now you can have like a totally regular job, like out of the spotlight, and just enjoy your life also. I think that's super cool. So I'm kind of like, I'm kind of, team Marko either way, whether this is the only match he ever has and this is it, or he comes back, or, whatever. I just hope that guy overachieved massively. Right? I remember Marko, people might not even know this. So for years before Marko started having any success in indie wrestling, this is years before he was even the Subgraps champion that I keep referring to. For years, he was in this like area of Tennessee where they just had him go out there and just like get his ass kicked by girls and like this kind of freak show situations where like he never looked good. Like he went out there to get his ass kicked as like just this like little guy, and it was just like a joke. And he persevered through years of that to get to where he was in the indies, and then to eventually wind up in AEW and on TNT and TBS and everything. Like at his size is like, no, you know what I mean? Like it's really impressive, the career he had. And I think it'd be cool if it continued, but I feel like this is a one-off. And how do you feel? Do you think this is it? Like this, he's gonna come back, have one match, and that's that probably?
I think he's gonna do a match at Spring Break. That would be my guess. I think it's a one-off though. I don't think it's any type of full-time return or anything like that. It sounds like health-wise, I'm not even sure if he can do like a full-time return. But I think he seems to be okay to do at least one match. He took some pretty he got physical, being attacked by KJ and Sam. So clearly he can do something to where, it's not full on like he can't take any bumps or anything. So I imagine it's some type of tag team match. Tag team match will protect him a little bit as well. I don't know if they could get Jack Perry to do it, but I think that'd just be kind of cool if they could get Jack Perry to do it. Maybe.
Him and Janela are tight. Jack Perry, like Janela meant a lot for Jack Perry getting like looked at by AEW and stuff. Like you never know.
Look, if anybody can pull off getting anybody, I have faith in Joey Janela. That man is so well connected and way more respected than I think people give him credit for in a lot of circles. So yeah, if anybody could pull it off, it could be him. But if it's not Jack, I'm not quite sure. You mentioned Nick Gage. I could potentially see that. But yeah, I definitely think it's a match. I don't think you do this angle if you aren't doing a match. I don't. Because the other option is you're doing like you got to do some type of tag team match, and then okay, Marko gets like a team, and then Marko helps his team win.
Right.
That doesn't seem like something they would just do in GCW.
Yeah, that's not good enough of a payoff to have him out of nowhere get missile dropkick to the back of the head and eat like whatever Sam did to him, like greetings from Asbury Park, whatever he did to him, like whatever pile driver he did. Like, there's no point in doing that if all Marko is going to do is stand outside the ring and watch his team of friends, avenge him. Like, no, Marko. I feel like there's no way you do this if you're not planning on having a match. And I really didn't expect it because he was really adamant on social media, like telling the fans, like, I'm not there to wrestle. I'm not wrestling anymore. I'm retired. I'm a car salesman. We made it very convincing. So
like I'd say Janela would be his partner, but Janela is wrestling Brody Jr. on that show. So Janela can do 2 matches. It's whatever. But that's the only other person who like really makes sense as his partner if it's not going to be Jack Perry. I'm with you of why did we do this Stackhouse and KJ alliance after everything they kind of went through and put each other through, and now like it hasn't even been a year.
Since their blow off of their feud, there's no way it's been close to a year, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And all of a sudden now they're just, okay, forget. I guess brothers forgive and forget, and you move on. But I don't know. That was the one to me where I was like, that. I don't love that, but we'll see if it goes anywhere.
That's where we're at. I had heard that Sam had turned heel the night before, or like within like a night or a few nights of the GCW show, he had turned heel at some other like smaller indie event. I can't remember the name of it. So that was the only other thing that kind of was like, he must just be going full heel everywhere now. So that'll be interesting because once again, like you said, and like I had mentioned earlier, I really think I would not be surprised if they directly reference Cena and Generico like during this comeback of this team. Like, I mean, this is really what I think they're going for. So just run it out there.
I didn't love it. It could have been different. I didn't like that they immediately went back, or not immediately, but like that they went with that. Just could have waited a little bit longer. Their blow off was September. Could have waited a little bit longer.
September, October, November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, like 6 months ago. It felt like it was even more recent, but still, 6 months still wasn't that long. Yeah. No.
Those dudes, like, they involved family members. They the cage match that they did. What was the other big match? The I Quit match that they did.
Quit match.
Yeah.
That was where they involved the wife. And they had this gusset plate after gusset plate. I mean, these guys, it was about as brutal as you can get some of those matches. No, I'm trust me, I'm with you. But that's also what makes it once again so interesting. Well, confusing really more than anything is, and what leads me to think it's going to be a tag team match, because why would you reunite these guys right after KJ attacked Marko? And that, otherwise you would just do KJ and Marko. And if you're going to do a Stackhouse reunion, just reunite them later on. But why would Stackhouse be involved in attacking Marko if he wasn't going to also be See, the other thing is there's the aesthetic dynamic of Marko Stunt and Sam Stackhouse, which I think they're going to want to use in this match because of the size difference. Yeah. It's like visually, I think that's just, Marko also has famously said many times throughout his career, his dream match was the Big Show. Like, he wanted to wrestle the Big Show so bad. And Big Show was his favorite wrestler. So I think that's also probably part of it. They want Marko to go out there and wrestle. He's the smallest wrestler on the roster. Sam's the biggest one on the roster, so that's kind of what I think they're going for there. But then once again, you gotta have the right tag team partner for Marko. I think Jack Perry is a really good shout out by you. I think that's very possible. I think my prediction of maybe it being Nick Gage is likely also potentially. Janela would have been a good choice, like you said, but I don't see him doing double duty. But I mean, you never know. So,
yeah. All right. Anything else, Jensen?
That's it. We're done pretty much right at 8:30 tonight, which is perfect for you. So,
I got a tournament to watch.
oh yeah, everyone enjoy this terrible sport of basketball. Hopefully, it's better than the NBA. I never even brought up to you about like I watched the NBA, like the All-Star break stuff. I just randomly saw some like it. Just I was reminded of it earlier. I never roasted it to you, but what was up with that? It was like the celebrity game was like tall guy from Dude Perfect having to try to like post up against like some actual giant. I was like, what is this?
I don't watch the celebrity game. I watch the All-Star weekend stuff because I like the 3-point contest. I don't think the dunk contest has been good in years because they can't get any actual stars to do it. The All-Star games this year were good until the last one, but the games this year were actually good because the players took it serious. But I don't know. The NBA All-Star game is very low on like stuff I enjoy about the NBA.
Okay, that's fair. That's good to know actually. And yeah, we've already talked all about how I felt about the Kobe's record being broken by Bam. I thought it was stupid. And I hope this is all to say. I hope that people enjoy watching March Madness, and I hope they play actual basketball. It'd be cool to see people, having to dribble and pass the ball around and take actual shots versus just running as fast as you can into the paint and going to the line 1,000 times. And then the fourth quarter taking like 3 hours. So hopefully it's better than I'll straight up say I admit watching the WNBA more than I've been watching the actual NBA lately. I put some money on the WNBA and watched some of the games, and I was like, oh, cool. They're actually passing the ball around and shooting. This is nice. So that's how I feel about it.
Let everybody know where they can find you at. Oh, go ahead.
You roast Cody every week. I got to find something to roast you about it. It's basketball.
I don't even know. That's fine. You can roast basketball.
You're like, I really don't care.
Yeah.
Shout out Kyler Murray, and you can find me at Fight Talk _ on X. That's pretty much it. We'll be back next week. There's probably going to be a whole lot of wrestling stuff we can talk about next week also.
Yeah.
Let's go Vikings.
All right, folks, we will be back next week. It's actually kind of a quiet weekend, which is nice. Joel and I will be back tomorrow in the weeds, 10 a.m. Eastern. He's going to make me talk about TNA. That's very unfortunate. Until then, we'll talk to everybody later on. Bye, folks.